Welcome to today's episode of Heartbeat, Tactical Insights for CIOs, where we explore the cutting edge of generative AI and legal industry with a leader who's not just witnessing change, but driving it. Our guest is Rob Field, who is at the forefront of innovation at Ozmosys, where he's transforming how legal professionals interact with data, turning vast information into actionable insights that offer a competitive edge. With a blend of a strategic vision and technical expertise, he's positioning Ozmosys as the go-to resource for empowering legal experts to stay ahead of risks and opportunities. In this episode, we'll discuss how he's shaping the future of business intelligence, helping organizations thrive in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. So if you're curious about how the future of AI in legal practice and leadership in a data-driven world, this conversation is for you. So, Rob, welcome and thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started as a CIO?
So I've been in IT for a very long time, mostly working my career doing everything from, I was a starter left running a Wang VS300, building networks, working on email servers. I've done just about everything. Programming, I was a COBOL programmer at one point in my career. I did just about everything for a while. And then I got a lot more involved in project management. And then I worked my way through different industries. And I think the different industry perspective gave me a lot of understanding about how businesses worked. And I think the difference between being a technologist and a technology leader is understanding that the value we bring is more along the lines of what can we provide to the business from a business growth perspective, and not only just a technology perspective. Early in my career, there were reasons that the teams I were with rolled out technology for the sake of technology. And I really believe that we roll out technology for the sake of business. And I came up with a definition of digital transformation, which is business transformation using technology as an enabler. And for me, we partner with the business, we build really deep, intimate relationships with the business to determine what we can do to help them be successful. And I think that being a CIO is an important part of helping the business grow. And from there, I worked my way through my career as a project manager. I got my first job in a leadership organization, manufacturing, some higher education, some digital media, and then some more manufacturing. And eventually ended up with Ozmosys, which is an AI company.
That's fantastic. And that's probably one of the best definitions I've heard of digital transformation. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
What would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned since starting your career?
There's been a few times in my career where there've been opportunities to do some reflection as to that I don't know everything, and I had very big aha moments where I learned a lot. And there was one where shortly after I left American Express, I was working at Montefiore Medical Center. And I had a moment where we were in a meeting and we were about to build a heart center. This is right before we worked on the children's hospital there. And thinking I know everything, someone was late for a meeting, and arrogant young Rob thought, "Why are you late to my meeting?" He happened to be a PA, and I didn't know what a PA was at the time. And anyway, he was late because he was in a surgery, and I didn't think about why he was late. I thought about me being late for lunch. At the end of the meeting, he told me why I was late, and I didn't have the experience or the knowledge to put my words together. And I followed up with him after when I was able to compose myself. But when I understood that everybody has a story, my story doesn't make up that story, and having empathy about walking in someone else's shoes, having that empathy to understand that other people have their own story and where they're coming from was a very important part of my career, and it shaped where I come from. It's not what I'm going through, it's what other people are going through. And as a leader, it's never really about what's in my mind. It's about the people around me and trying to be authentic to understand that it's us as a team that's going to get this done. It's everyone who's involved in this process. And if I only think about what's happening in my head, then I'm not listening to the diversity around me. I'm not listening to the problems that are around me, and it's never going to be as good of a solution. And that moment, I learned that there are way more important things than lunch, and there are way more important people than me. But together, we can do some really great things. So if you get to know the people around you, you connect with all different types of people from everywhere in this world, and no matter who you are, what your background's from, there's value there. So there's no top of the food chain or bottom. It's all of us together. And that was I think that to date, that's probably my very favorite moment in my career, because that opened my eyes to see that diversity really is the most important thing to me from a leadership perspective. That's diversity of thought, diversity of people, diversity of cultures, and diversity of background.
Thank you. The word that comes to mind is showing people grace. It's giving the benefit of the doubt. It's looking past the immediate, what we think might be happening. And as you shared with the example of the coming out of surgery or helping, whether it was saving a person's life or a critical care, it's something we often forget living in the world of IT, that there's other things happening around us. So that was a really good insight. Thank you. What are two or three of the most impactful podcasts or video series that you listen to in order to keep up to date?
So I listened to so many. A long time ago, I gave up TV. I did so because life sucked for me, and it was just a constant drain of nonstop uselessness for me. But when I found podcasts, I thought that they were great. And most recently, I've been listening to Acquired, and the Microsoft series on Acquired. The second one just came out. I haven't listened to it yet. The first part was just fantastic. Listening to Acquired, and someone once said to me, "You don't need to get your MBA if you listen to Acquired," and I think it's fantastic. But there's so many great ones. I have my leading digital era, but between Acquired and my friend Jeff Tone's Status Go or Digital Leadership First, Richard Bliss's show, I think that's a great one. I don't get in the car and listen to music anymore. Everything's just a podcast, or on my hikes, it's a podcast. So there, there's nonstop, tremendous amount of great content out there.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Regarding digital transformation and innovation, what is one trend you believe is being overlooked?
That's a really good question. So working for an AI company, this is a really tough thing to say right now, but I think we missed the boat on a lot. AI came too quickly. Now, as an IT professional, we've been talking about AI for a very long time, but we passed too quickly up on workflow and RPA and the convergence of Web3. It'll come back, and everything that converges will come in. Blockchain is a game changer, and there are companies like Walmart using blockchain for what farm produce might come from. Too much time is spent right now, I think, on talking about generative AI and not enough time on the other areas of technology. But this, to me, is just our next phase of digital transformation. We'll come full circle, and other technologies will flow back to the top. But the Pony Express was only around for a very short time before the telegraph took over, right? We took many years to get out of the farms in the Industrial Revolution into the industry. The problem that AI has presented us is we don't have as much time to train people in rate of change that technology is moving now, that we have to figure out how to get information to people faster. And Gen AI is going to really help us with that. And then new versions of AI will do so as well. The changes that we've gone through that recently, I think, have lost sight of that workflow and RPA that can really help companies advance a lot quicker and be much more efficient. And to me, that's the downfall of what AI has delivered to us.
As you rightly said, sometimes you have to look backwards in order to understand your current state before you can apply it to future state. And I feel oftentimes it's too often we look at AI as being a panacea and a immediate fix for everything. But if you don't have your core fundamentals in place, whether it's your data or your infrastructure or your processes nailed down, you can't improve on something that doesn't exist.
Right.
And if you don't understand why you're improving upon something and the results from a business point of view, it's hard to get buy-in from leadership when you can't explain to it in terms they understand. So that's a really good point of view. What do you feel are some of the biggest operational challenges that your team is facing today when it comes to AI or when it comes to your leadership as a forward-thinking company?
I think that the biggest problem is always people, right? It's people come with personalities and questions and concerns. And if you focus on the problems that people have, I think that will be the best thing you can do with your time. Technology for people usually is easy if you have an open mindset and you want to learn. There's enough out there to teach you, and if you will take that chance, it might break and we'll fix it. But at the end of the day, the biggest challenge is not everybody learns the same way anymore, and not everybody learns at the same pace. But if you take the time to find out what's wrong with what you're delivering from the different perspectives that the people you have with you, I think at that point, it'll be a lot easier ride for everybody else. So for me, it's the people component of where we are. And that's where I think most of my success comes from. I like to build those relationships and find out what those problems are. When you take away someone's issues or concerns and they're all in and they're part of your process, then I don't think there's anything that can hold you back.
That's a great answer. Thank you. How is success defined in this new world we're walking into? Is there a measurement or a way of looking at measuring success that you rely upon?
Someone once sent me a quote many years ago. Success is doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, as often as you want. And I feel very blessed to have a tremendous network around me. You had me here a week after I came back from a conference in Dallas. The conference is called Converge, and we were introduced from a friend of ours in Canada who I met at another conference. And I go to these places to learn because you can't do it on your own. And someone once said being a CIO is a very lonely job, right? You can show the mistakes you made and how you overcome them, and that shows transparency. And you can talk about some things and maybe sometimes not others. And sometimes people feel like they don't want to see you weak, but you go to these conferences and you meet some amazingly brilliant people. And early in my career, I'm like, what do I have to deliver to the table? What can I bring to the table? And sometimes it's just a question and asking them, can you teach me this? And I've never met a person that says no. I was at Inspire CIO has this conference called Converge, and we were there last week. There were 300 CIOs from all over the country. I've met some wonderful people. My new friend Derek flew out from LA to have dinner with us in New York this past week. And to learn what he's built in his company and the infrastructure he built here in New York was amazing. It's stuff I could never do, but now I have a friend that I know can do that. And if you take the time to get to know these people, they're the same as all of us. And I believe that anyone who feels that imposter syndrome should just take a few minutes and to meditate or do PQ rep and just ask a question. And everyone's always willing to take the time and teach you, and you can learn from them. And you'll find some really smart people only want to just share their knowledge. And to me, that's successful. When you have the time that you can take and share and learn from others, that's a great week for me. And last week was an exceptional one.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Dallas was probably pretty hot last week.
So that was the worst part. And so the Dallas group down there, they planned the great conference. The worst part was having to walk across the street. But once we're inside, it's fine. But going outside, not so much.
Just where we are here, it was probably 5 or 10 degrees hotter, so I can only imagine. This is a two-part question. So how important is data accuracy, and who is responsible for keeping it clean and up to date?
So a very good friend of mine, Wendy Kuhn, she wrote a book, Strategy Reality. It's a business architecture book. And she always says people, process, technology. So I say people, process, technology, data. And data is part of all of that. Data is the most important asset. Companies sell data for lots and lots of money. And without good data, it's bad. It's garbage in, garbage out. Data is critically important. And it's everybody's responsibility to keep it updated and proper. IT owns data, but they don't own all data. I say IT is a data steward, not a data owner. And the business is responsible for owning their data as well. I've always built a dashboard that shows bad data so everyone can see their bad data and correct it, because if you don't share it and you don't see it, then people forget about it. So your business intelligence platform should have a area where only a subset of people can see where their bad data is and keep it clean. But especially with AI now, and all the data we need to use for AI, not having good data is a very big mistake in your organization. So if you don't have a process, a data steward, you don't have a data standards committee, and someone that's making sure that in your department, within your org, to keep your data clean, then you're going to have lots of problems downstream. Data is probably the most important thing you have to worry about.
That's great. Thank you. So from a tactical adoption strategy, how can companies implement AI, whether it's what your firm is doing or what you're seeing across the board? It seems like it's a really popular term, but I don't feel like people are actually implementing it in a way that is tactical.
Ozmosys has a very specific product that does something very specific. A friend of mine and I had this conversation. We came up with you need to have a toaster, right? Toaster toast. Right now, when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, but what I say I stole from my friend Rita and Anna, applied imagination. Come up with a solution, very specific solution for your use case of generative AI and what you do with AI. But there's so much around what you can do with it that people get lost in what am I going to do with it? And they have the problems around failure to execute. Another friend I met last week at this conference, Gavin Hupp, he posted today that he and his children wrote a story and then published an AI, and he's having his young children, and I think they're 5 and 7, using AI to develop pictures to the stories. And he's using it as not only a training aid for his kids, but an exercise to bond with his children and take his profession, which he loves, and his children, which he loves, and bring those two worlds together. To me, it's find something very specific that works for you, that delivers value, and go all in on that. And Ozmosys, when what we're delivering is generative news intelligence, and we're making it easier for law firms to gather that data. And that's specific, and it's marketable, and it's sellable, and it really creates a lot of efficiencies within an organization. But you'll get lost if you think that AI is going to be everything to everyone. And the only people that will be impacted by AI are those people who don't use AI. And without a idea to go find a use case, then I think you're just spinning your wheels. It's not a magic bullet, but it is something that can be very powerful if you find a real way to use it.
Thank you for that. So getting to some tactical recommendations, what are things that you see that CIOs should both start and stop doing?
So I can tell you one thing they can see them stop doing, and I see too often in my career, I've seen CIOs try to do it alone. I've connected with so many people that just want to share and do that. If you're doing it alone, it'll never work. And I like to use a phrase I learned a very long time ago. If you think you go at it alone, then try to remember why you have a belly button. I've learned and gained so much by using my connections and partnering with other people. And early in my career, you couldn't call someone from the same industry and ask them for help. But now it happens all the time. And yeah, there's IP data and you have to scrub information, but why not share to make us all better? We're all the same, right? We're trying, we might be competitors in some areas, but there's nothing stopping us from being better together. And it is the human race. It's the human race. And I think there's too much about us versus them and not. And I'm an ELE. And if you didn't see the movie, it's everybody love everybody. And if we can find a way to work better together, we'll all be better in the long run.
That's a wonderful perspective. What are some tools or systems that you're using that are helping you day to day?
That might be, that's a really long question. So, because I find myself right now, we're using one video conferencing platform. I use 3 every day. And the very funny thing is I never thought I'd say this. And I might create a lot of haters out there for this comment, but after all these years, about 4 months ago, I moved to a Mac. And it's helped me tremendously. I never have to tweak my video or my audio, or I never have to worry about and I've been a PC guy my whole life. I'm still using Windows on my Mac and I love it, but I'm so much happier with my Mac, but yet I'm still using Teams and Slack and every platform to communicate with everyone. But this platform for me has been a much better user experience.
Welcome to the family.
Oh, hey, thank you. It's just, I can't believe how much better it is for me. And I don't think people put enough emphasis on LinkedIn. I think when people have a job, they don't focus on it enough, but it's a great tool for me to learn and collaborate and communicate, especially for those that I'm talking to every day. A lot of great knowledge is out there. I know a lot of the people from my networks post some fantastic stuff that not only I can read, I can reach out and talk to them and find some real great information. When I took one of my first leadership courses, RLF, and at that time I was reading the leadership forum, for me, it was much more exciting to meet a CIO that I can learn and learn from. In New York, we'll walk down the street and see a celebrity and maybe nod at the most. We won't. But I see CIO and I get all giddy. I can learn from this person. And there's so many fascinating people you can learn from. And LinkedIn is a tremendous source. And I tell everyone I meet this graduate in college, if you build a LinkedIn now, you should connect. And many of them don't have a LinkedIn. I say, if you join the LinkedIn, I'll connect with you once you reach 500 connections. And that gives them an opportunity to go connect and learn from others as well. So I think those 2 things have been big game changers for me, one throughout my career, and most recently, I'm a Mac person now.
Fantastic. If you were to share some advice to someone who is either entering into the job market or who is transitioning roles, what's something you would share with them to help them on their path as you have hit a really pinnacle point in your career as being a CIO? What is something you would pass on as some knowledge?
So there are a couple of things I think have stuck with me. Everyone that's worked for me in recent history, there's a great book called Leading Without Authority. That book is tremendous for me. It teaches you that you don't need the title to lead. You need to have passion. You need to be inquisitive. You need to learn to ask questions. If you walk into the room and you're the one that's making the statements, then you're really not listening. And that's a big problem. And no matter who I talk to, whether it's a new employee, an intern, a salesperson, if you're the one talking, then you're not learning. And I think that book goes hand in hand with the book Mindset, which is another great book. If you don't have an open mindset, then it doesn't matter if you're listening, if you're only thinking about what you have to bring to the table. And if you take the time to listen and understand, not listen to hear or listen to talk, I think that those 2 books go hand in hand. And I've learned so much from everything I've learned in my career, but these 2 books, most recently, I would pass on to anyone who's looking to make any major shift or change in their life. It's hard to make those shifts, especially in IT. I've always found it difficult when hiring managers say you can't move from industry to industry. And I've done that pretty successfully. I've seen many people do it very successfully. But if you keep an open mindset and you learn to lead with that authority and you learn to value what other people bring to the table, I don't think there's anything you can't do.
That's a wonderful insight. How can our audience get a hold of you?
I'm Robert Field everywhere. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. We're on that. Even when I use my Oculus to game, right? It's just Robert Field. Connect me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect and collaborate.
Fantastic. Well, I'll include that at the bottom of the show notes. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Heartbeat, and look forward to staying in touch.
Thanks, Mike. I look forward to it too.
Thank you so much, Rob. That was really insightful. I really appreciate your perspective and the story you shared about the PA. It's so relevant, especially when we're wanting to drive a meeting or we want to get something done and it's not done according to timelines that maybe we want. Just remembering that is going to be a story that I'll remember forever. So thank you.
Yeah, I tried not to share. I didn't share all of it, but I can't usually because I do get very emotional. It was a huge moment. I left the room crying. I didn't to him. Philip sat and put his feet up on the desk, and I'm like, "What's this asshole doing?" And I still know him to this day, and I still admire that moment to this day, and I'll never forget it. And I actually asked my network engineer to leave the meeting, and I said, "What else can I do for you?" And it was a baby's heart he was holding. And how do I care about the fact that I'm an hour late for lunch because he was 40 minutes late to my meeting? And I rushed a meeting to build a heart center because I thought this guy was not taking considerate of my time. And to me, there's no excuse that anyone can bring to the table that I'm not going to believe. And if you're lying to me, then that's on you. It's not on me. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's just work. It's not life. And we were at this conference last week, and I announced that we're going to bring it to New York the following year. And I told everyone when I was announcing it, because I run programs for this networking group, I said, every leader up here gets up and they say, thank you to the team and thank you to the company. And that's great because they have great teams, they have great companies, but companies change and people leave. And the networks that we have there and the people that are in life that teach us everything, they're forever. That guy, Philip, will stay in my heart forever. And we both worked at Montefiore. I'm not there anymore, but that story is part of me and it defines every conversation I have. Because I don't care what they're saying to me. You can't say anything that's really going to hurt me outside of my children, right? But my family. But at the end of the day, I have to take into consideration that they're going through something else. Maybe it's a divorce, and maybe it's an ailing child, right? And what does it really matter at the end of the day? It's just work.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Rob, this has been so insightful. Thank you. I appreciate you jumping on the call and look forward to staying in touch.
My pleasure. I look forward to it as well.
All right. Thank you. Take care.